Leaders, are you leading a team or are you carrying one? Because too many leaders are out here exhausted, not because they lack vision or not because they lack the talent or because they are doing too much of work themselves. You're the one filling the gaps. You're the one solving the problems. You're the one keeping everything moving. And somewhere along the way, leadership stopped feeling like multiplication and started actually feeling like maintenance. We've been told to accept the 80-20 rule. The 20% of the people will do 80% of the work. But what if I told you that's not a people problem? What if it's a leadership design problem? Well, I'm so excited about this conversation because we're going to unpack what if the reason people aren't showing up is because we haven't created the pathways for them to actually step in. And in tonight's conversation, it's about flipping that script, not by working harder, but by leading smarter, by creating systems that actually unlock passion, by designing opportunities that meet people where they really are, and by being the leader that is represented by my guest tonight. He's done exactly that. Pastor Tommy Kyllonen didn't just talk about engagement, he re-engineered it. And what used to be 20% involvement is now 80%. Leaders, if you're ready to stop carrying everything alone and start activating the people around you, I want you to lean in because this conversation is about to change how you lead. Let's get after it. What's making strong leaders in this season? Leadership is influence. It's rooted in the responsibility you take. You pay attention to the patterns, your calm, your strength, your hope. It's all integrated. We are living in a time where trust is fragile and people are watching not just what leaders say, but how they decide. Integrity is not optional anymore. Obedience is going to cost you. In this season, we're not just flipping adversity. We're forming leaders who can carry what comes next. Leaders from across all dimensions of fields and spaces. They're going to come together to give you the best of their wisdom. And I want you to leave each episode with a call to action. That's the work. That's the calling. And that's the conversation we're stepping into together. Hey, welcome to the flip side of adversity. I am Dr. Veirdre Jackson, your CEO and creative behind Living Strong Consulting. I've been so excited about this conversation because one, it's practical, and two, it is with a pastor that I love to affectionately identify as my church home away from home. Crossover Church has a very special place in my heart. And Pastor Tommy is a change maker, an innovator, a powerful creative in multiple spaces that is impacting leadership globally. And so I'm so excited for his yes. And let me tell you a little bit more about him. So Pastor Tommy Urban D. Kyllonen is a visionary leader and lead pastor of Crossover Church in Tampa, Florida, where he has led over 30 years of ministry and guided the church through nationally recognized multi-ethnic, multi-generational model of innovation. An internationally known hip-hop artist, author of 7 books, and founder of the Flavor Fest Leadership Conference, Pastor Tommy has trained thousands of leaders and equipped churches across the country. Passionate about helping leaders win, he continues to coach and develop leaders globally while building movements that drive impact beyond the walls of the church. So I am excited to welcome to the flip side of adversity, Pastor Tommy.
Hey,
Hey,
hey, Dr. V, how you doing? It's great to be here with you.
I am awesome. I have been looking forward to this conversation all day because I know that you are a wealth of information and knowledge for our listeners, especially in a season and time where so many leaders are so exhausted. So thank you.
Yeah, it's great
So,
to be here with you.
So let's just jump right into it because I think this conversation of the 80-20 rule isn't just an issue in ministry. It's literally across any dynamic of leadership. And so as you are approaching this concept, most leaders actually just accept it. But you are challenging it. What made you refuse to normalize that imbalance?
Yeah, well, I get frustrated as a visionary, and when other people don't get it, I just want to find creative ways to help you get it, to help you see it. So the old saying is seeing is believing. But, what if you flip that and it's believing is seeing? Like, so you have to believe it
Mm.
first and then you can actually see it come to reality. And, I've seen that happen so many times by God's grace over the years of leading ministry, of coming up with big, crazy ideas and then watching God like breathe on it. And we figure some things out and work really hard, but we actually are able to make it happen against impossible odds. And so, when it comes to the 80-20 rule, we just kind of accept it and like, oh, well, it is what it is. It's how life is. It's how organizations function, churches function, businesses function, our lives function. But I think we can do better. I think we can call out the leader in people, call out people's purposes and passions. And so, in specific, in this context, it was dealing with outreach. I'm an evangelist at heart. I'm a pastor, but I just love outreach. I love evangelism. And, even you've been to Flavor Fest, our leadership conference before, and we even do an outreach at Flavor Fest because we want to train people like hands on. You're not just going to come and sit in workshops and network and learn and be inspired and have a good time, but you're going to go and roll your sleeves up and you're going to
Mm-hmm.
go out and actually like put hands and feet to what you just learned in these workshops. And so that's something that we love to do and train others to do. So we've always been about that since day one. But I got frustrated because I was noticing that even though we had a lot of people involved in doing outreach, it was still only about 20% of the church.
Mm.
And I was just like, we can do better. So I think what you got to do is you got to do some research and investigate why. Like,
Mm.
why are we against this brick wall? What are some solutions we can come up with? And so, in particular with outreach, let me ask you, Dr. V, when do most churches do an outreach? What day of the week,
Mm.
generally?
Saturday or Sunday.
Saturday, right? Sunday's church. We're not doing outreach on Sunday. We're going to church, right? But Saturday, not a trick question, but we do our outreaches on Saturday. Probably 95% of the time, if a church is going to do some kind of outreach, it's going to be on a Saturday. So let's just think about that day in 2026. You got
Oh.
about 35 to 40% of people now that work on a Saturday. So they ain't going to be able to come if they're working, right? And in
Mm-hmm.
some demographics, in some cities, it may even be higher than that, depending on
Yeah.
the people that you're reaching that are part of your church or whatever. Then in addition, you got a lot of people that have kids, and now the sports culture is such a big thing, and they all have games on Saturdays. And there's even if they're not in that, there's some kind of extracurricular activity. Maybe it's a birthday party they have to go to, or there's, a trip that's planned, or there's something. So if you have kids, a lot of times there's already stuff going on that's going to conflict on a Saturday. Then in addition, you have a lot of people that, we're in this culture where people like to just go places. And on the weekend, they're going to go somewhere. Maybe it might not be like a faraway trip, but they're going to do a staycation and go something and, take social media photos. And, a lot of the younger generation is doing stuff on the weekends. And then you also have a group of people that Saturday might be their only day off.
Mm-hmm.
And they're just not going to leave the house. They're not going to do nothing. They're going to stay home and rest, and that's their day. And so even though you try to convict them and convince them, try to come to this thing, you compel them, they ain't coming. So if you really look at all the percentages, then you're probably down to about 20%. Maybe you could push it to 30, because everybody else, they're already doing stuff on a Saturday.
Yeah.
And so as I began to kind of research and look at that, and that's just the reality, everyone used to have off on Saturdays in culture in the past. But now you got a big chunk of people that work on Saturdays, and you're competing with so many other things that are going on. So I began to think about that and say, what if, we live in a culture of so many different options, right? We all got one of these, and there's a gazillion different things we could do on here. You can just be on your phone all day scrolling. Some of you are, but hopefully you found this. You're watching this right now. Good.
Yes.
Stay locked in. But we have so many options. And, remember back in the day, I don't know about you, Dr. V, I grew up in Philly and we didn't have cable. My parents wouldn't get cable. So we had like 3 channels. And then we had like these other channels. I can't even remember. It was like UHV or UV. I don't even remember. But it was like, we had like 5 or 6 channels in total. That's all we had. We didn't have a lot of options. Now, me and my wife sit down and go, like, let's watch something tonight. And we'll look at like channel after channel, movie after movie. Sometimes it's like 30 minutes. We're like, my wife's like, listen, I'm going to read. Like, she's not, shout out to my wife, Lucy. But we have so many options, and sometimes too many options are a bad thing, but they're not always bad. And I think sometimes as a church or an organization, or if you have a business or whatever, sometimes we only have a certain amount of options that we give to people. And it's like, if you can't do it at this time, then forget you. And it's like, well, they ain't going to come then. But if you can give people more options with time, it can open up a lot more windows and doors, right?
Yeah.
And then in addition to that, when it comes to outreach, like usually we only do one thing. You know what we usually do with outreach? Churches do this. This is going to stretch some of y'all a little bit. But here's what outreach is at most churches. We give away free stuff to poor people.
Ooh.
Yeah, that's what most outreach is. And listen, y'all, that's not bad. We need to do more of that. Most churches don't do enough of that.
Yeah.
My church, we do a lot of that. And we're like, okay, we're doing great at reaching that demographic, right? But what about people that their kids don't need a book bag to go back to school? What about people that their kids don't need a Christmas present at Christmas? Like, they're good. They're doing okay. Middle class people and people even that are wealthy, they need Jesus too.
They need Jesus too. I was thinking the same thing.
How do we reach them? So if we say like we want to love our neighbors as we love ourselves, if you live in any metro area, your neighbors, they're going to be very diverse. They're going to be multi-ethnic, multi-generational, multi-class. And so many times our outreach strategy as a church is just kind of one-dimensional. And again, there's a lot of churches that it's zero-dimensional. They're not doing anything, right? So at least like help some people that have needs. Absolutely. But we began to think about, man, we're really good at reaching people that have needs, physical, tangible needs. But what about people that may not need something physically, but they need something spiritually? Like, how can we connect with them as well? So I came into staff meeting. This was like 2016. And as a visionary, when I come into staff meeting with a big idea, sometimes the team is like, oh no, here goes Pastor Tommy again. And I don't do that all the time, but I come up with some big crazy ideas, and then the team helps execute it, right? So I came in and I said, listen, I've been frustrated about some of the outreach stuff that we do. And we show a highlight video, everybody claps, people even give towards it. It's great, but we only have a portion of people that are actually actively engaged. And so many people are missing out. They're missing out. So what I want to do next year, in 16, I'm saying what we're going to do in 2017 is we're going to, instead of doing like an outreach on a day or a few outreaches on a day, which would be Saturday, let's do a whole serve week. Let's do a whole week where we create options for people to come in the evenings. Some people maybe during their lunch break, some people in the morning. That might be more convenient for them. Let's just give a bunch of options for people. And we're also going to give, so I'm like, what if we're going to do 50 community service projects with 500 people? And so the team was like, what?
How is
We've
this?
never done anything that had 500 people involved. Like Flavor Fest, we've had maybe as much as 250, 300 volunteers throughout the whole weekend, right? So this is like doubling that. And I was like, but you know what? I think if we cast the vision right and we package this correctly, and I'm like, outreach is already in our DNA as a church. So you might not be able to do something like this right away. Got to get some DNA going, right? But I'm like, I think if we cast the vision and we present it properly, I think we could make this happen. And so they're like, okay, well, what in the world would we do? 50 projects? Like 50 things? Like what could we do? So this is what I did. And so think about this. If you want to reach people around your church or around your nonprofit or your organization, we took a whiteboard, we put it up and we said, okay, so what's the demographic that lives in a 3 to 5 mile radius of our church where we're at? And so, we started putting some stuff up on the board. So Dr. V, give me a couple. We're gonna do a little working project here, right? So think about like the studio you're in right now, and what's some of the demographics that are within a 5 mile radius of that studio? Like what's a demographic, a people group?
Caucasian.
Okay, so
Middle
group.
class. Yep, middle class.
Middle class.
African American. Seniors.
Yeah.
We've got teens.
Yep.
Just thinking about, let's see. Oh, it used to be millennials, but now they're Gen Z. Gen
Yeah.
Z that are like heavily along like that strip where all the they have a lot of beer distributors. So like that whole strip, they're all along there. Yeah, the breweries all along.
Yeah.
What
Yeah,
else?
that's good.
Yeah.
So you just listed a bunch of different demographics, right, that are in your area. So for us, we listed up there like there's college students. We have USF right up the street. University of South Florida, almost 50,000 students. And those students are from all over the world. It's very diverse, right? We have business people. There's a lot of businesses here in the district. We have families in poverty. We have single moms. We have homeless people. We have immigrants and migrants. We have seniors. We have some senior homes. There's some trailer parks right near here. There's a lot of apartments near here. There's teachers in the district. There's educators because there's a lot of schools. There's a lot of hospital workers because this is the largest medical district in Florida within right near our church. So we start listing all those different demographics, and although there's a hood, there's also other stuff. Like in most cities, it changes pretty quickly. So right here, directly around the church, is a lot of low income apartments. But if you just go like a mile or 2 miles west of here, you're in solid middle class neighborhoods. You go like about 2.5, 3 miles west of here, you got like mansions on lakes. So like it can change like really fast in a lot of cities where you might have Section 8 housing across the street from $1 million condos. A lot of urban areas are like that. And Tampa has, some areas that are like that as well, as the city redevelops and gentrifies and all that. So all that to say, you've got a diversity of
Yeah.
a lot of different kind of demographics around you. So then we began to dream and say, well, how can we touch each one of those
Yeah.
people
Based on
groups?
their needs.
They're gonna have different needs.
Mm-hmm.
So what does that look like? So we kind of broke it down into three different categories. We did service projects, and that would be, like sweat equity projects. We would cut someone's grass, clean their house, paint, clean a school, clean a park, stuff that, was really just like, if you get some people together and, they get some elbow grease and let's make it happen. And it's a blessing for people. So that, sweat service projects is one. Another one that reaches all kinds of demographics was pay it forward projects. So you could touch anybody with that. Let me give you an example. So right around the corner from the church is a laundromat, urban laundromat. People that go to the laundromat are people that don't have a washer and dryer in their home. So if you're watching this right now, you have a washer and dryer in your home, be grateful. There's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people that don't. And we take something like that for granted. Like, oh, I could just go to the laundry room and do a load of laundry. There's a lot of people in this world that have to take their stuff and walk or get in the
Yes.
car and go to a laundromat and wait for it there, right? So we show up at the laundromat with $500 of quarters and fabric detergent, softener, all that kind of stuff. And it's a surprise. Nobody knows we're coming except the laundromat owner. You do have to arrange that. But trust me, they're very happy we're coming
Mm-hmm.
because there's maybe
Mm-hmm.
a few people at the laundromat. But when we show up and we got our aprons on and we start walking around telling everybody, people are just blown away. At first, sometimes some people will be a little bit hesitant. They'll be like, what's the catch? Do I have to sign up for a healthcare program or a low income phone or something like what? Because there's things like
That's
that.
the
And
culture,
like
though.
we're like, there's no strings attached. It's Love Our City Week. We all got T-shirts on. We're like, hey, we're just here to show some love to our neighbors and serve you. Everything's absolutely free. We're just from the church down the block. And then people are like, oh, hold on a second. Hey, what's up, girl? You need to come down to the laundromat right now. Like, bring
The
everything.
whole truth. The
And
whole truth.
so within
Yes.
like, the next, 30 minutes, 45 minutes, everybody's showing up at the laundromat. And we got some people outside holding signs and stuff, and
Mm-hmm.
people walking by are like, I'll be back. I'll be right back. And so soon the whole laundromat is full and it becomes a party. And everybody's
Yeah.
there waiting for their laundry and they got questions like, why y'all doing this? Where are you from? Like, oh, and organic ministry just starts to
Yeah.
happen.
Yeah.
Some people are like, oh, I've been looking for a church, or I heard about that church, or, like it's in a conversation happens. Hey, can you pray for me? Or, I need some prayer. Like, hey, we could pray right now. And there's this great stories that come out of that. So that's one people group that's met, and that's reaching a need, right?
Yeah.
At the same time, a couple hundred feet away from that laundromat on the corner, we have a Starbucks that was put in a few years ago. The neighborhood's changing. Now, ain't nobody from the neighborhood going to that Starbucks to buy $7, $8 coffee, but all the commuters are, and the people that are driving through our district, and they're in the drive-through. And so we got a team there that's giving out gift bags with a gift card in it, a $10 gift card to buy their coffee and their Danish for the day. And
Yeah.
guess what? 98% of those people, they could probably afford to buy their own coffee, but they're taking the gift bag gladly, like, oh my gosh, thank you. But watch this. There's a lady that is getting out of a nice Mercedes and she's walking in. The team is there with the gift bag and they gave it to her and she just burst out in tears. And they're like, oh, what's wrong, ma'am? Are you okay? And she's like, I've really been struggling lately. And I was in the car having a panic attack. And I was just like praying, like, God, like, if you see me,
Mm-hmm.
like give me a sign, like, show me something. And then I get out of the car and hear you guys. And
Yeah.
she's just, like blown away. And so you can be somebody's answer to prayer when you serve your neighbor, even just with random acts of kindness. And so she didn't need us to buy her coffee, but that built a bridge
Mm-hmm.
for us to pray for her, to talk to her, to encourage her. And so the Pay It Forward projects, there's so many different ones that we do, variety of different ones. One of my favorites is knock knock groceries. We show up at
So
people's house.
wait,
Yeah,
wait,
go
Pastor
ahead.
Tommy, that is where I come in
Go ahead.
because my very first trip to crossover, which
Yep.
actually hooked me, I said, this is my church away from home. Now, when you talk about unconventional, so I was there for Flavor Fest, and who in the middle of a conference incorporates an actual service project? Like for me, someone who puts on conference, I'm like, this is genius. And I got my t-shirt. We had bags of groceries. We just went to the neighborhood development and started knocking on doors and giving out groceries. And I said, this is my church. Like, these are my people. Like, this is genius, first of all, because we were already in the throes of learning, engaging, really connecting with the conference experience. But then it's almost literally like a heart application moment for us to go out into the community and connect. And I was sold. I was sold from that point forward. I said, I'm coming back to Tampa. I don't care how many times I have to. But yeah, and I remember it was around the time when gas prices were going up, and up. And
Yeah.
you all were walking up to gas pumps and paying for people's gas. And people were literally bawling because they were trying to figure out, how am I going to fill my tank? Like, they were preparing to put just $5 in. And here you all showed up and just took people out. So yeah, that's where I come in, because I was like, oh, knock knock groceries, genius.
Yep, to pay it forward gas. Trust me, both of those are very popular right now, especially with the gas prices the last month or so. We just did Love Our City Week, and yeah, the gas project was, people were very grateful, and the groceries as well, because groceries have gotten so expensive the last couple of years. And so when someone shows up at your door with a bag of groceries, people were just like, what? Wait, oh my goodness, this is such a blessing. And we're living out, Matthew 5:16, which says, let your good deeds shine out for everybody to see, that they may praise your heavenly Father. And so, and we hear that happen during like knock knock groceries. So many testimonies where people be like, oh, thank God we needed groceries. Oh, thank God we didn't know, how we were going to make it to the end of the month. This is an answer to prayer. Oh, thank God. Oh my good. So, people are thanking God. They're thinking about God automatically. Didn't even necessarily know we were from a church, but like that connection automatically begins to happen. So yeah.
I
So
think that's also kind of the secret sauce, because I've also been curious because people always talk about, we are multi-generational, multicultural. People slap that title or descriptor onto their church. But I've been there and I've seen you actually are multi-ethnic, multi-generational, and it feels like what you're explaining is also a part of that secret sauce that cultivates that. So when you think about how you got to that place, how did that unique kind of context really take root within your organization?
Yeah, it's a good question. So I think a lot of the multi-ethnic piece was organic. I'm originally from Philly. I grew up in a diverse environment. And so for me, like, that's just natural. Like, if you would have seen my house growing up, I mean, there was people of all kinds of different ethnic backgrounds coming to hang out at my house. Italian, Puerto Rican, Korean, Indian, African American, Jamaican, like Irish. Like, I had it was the United Nations at my house. Like my friends that I went to school with, some of my friends I went to church with, it was all kinds of different backgrounds. And even though we were all many times different, um, hip hop was the thing that brought us together. Basketball was the thing that brought us together. And so even though different languages were spoke in many of our homes, because many of my friends were first and second generation, immigrants, and their families spoke different languages. So I'd go to their house and they'd be speaking in a different language, or there'd be food, so I would be able to try all kinds of different, foods growing up from some different people. But there was that thing that kind of brought us together. And so then, like, if I'm going to lead a church, like, of course it's gonna look like my community of friends and like how I grew up, in the Philadelphia area. And then, most of our church, we're in Florida, but nobody's from here. Like literally, we're probably now at about 97 or 98% of my church is not originally from Tampa. Like we
Wow.
asked several times in 2025, and our theme was community. And we found out like 80% of our church was new since the pandemic, and 50% of our church was new to Tampa since the pandemic.
Wow.
So I'm like, we have like a new church plant, even though it's larger. Like it's so these people, like, they're still learning our culture, they're building relationships and roots and trust and all those things. Even though they're excited and they're all in, there's not history there like we had with that 20% of our church
Right.
now, because our church has grown much larger than it was even pre-pandemic. Praise God, we've been thriving. But so with that, so many people are, when I say how many people are from Tampa, we have like 3 people that will shout. How many people are from New York? There's like hundreds, so those people from those other environments, it's mostly up north and the Caribbean. So it's people from diverse backgrounds anyways. And then hip hop is kind of always been a thread of our church. We grew up in hip hop generations, and we always integrated that, me as a hip hop artist, and we integrated that into our church with so many different artists. We were one of the first churches to kind of do some of that. We were called a hip hop church, and we're not a hip hop church. We're a church, a New Testament church in the urban context. We do hip hop, but we do R&B, we do gospel, we do reggae, we do Spanish music, we EDM, we do a little bit of everything. It's rhythmic, right? But because we're kind of from that background, it's just that part was very natural. But as we began to mature and grow as a church, a lot of that was happening organically, but then we also had to be intentional about it as well. And because everything from our church council to our staff
Mm.
to our leaders to our volunteers to everything, like, it's diverse, it's multi-ethnic throughout. But then sometimes there's certain pockets that might begin to become one thing almost, and
Mhm.
you gotta keep an eye on that. Sometimes we're like, hey, we're diverse, and but we also began to learn that it's biblical. The New Testament church was multi-ethnic, and sometimes that brought some tension. And we know that there's all kinds of history in America of why there is a black church and there's a white church,
Mhm.
and like, why can't everybody come to? Well, there's history behind that, with generations in the past, and there's
Yep.
racism and there's all that stuff. I get it, I get it. But churches in the New Testament were, many of them were multi-ethnic, and there was Jew and Gentile. And the most influential church in the New Testament was not the church in Jerusalem, the church that started the whole New Testament. Acts chapter 2, they started the New Testament church, but it was the church in Antioch. And if you look at
Mm.
Acts chapter 13, you'll see it talks about the leaders of the church, and it mentions, the guys were from Africa, they were from the Middle East, and some of them were from like the Mediterranean, which would be considered Europe or kind of on the edge of the Middle East, right? So it was this diverse group of pastors that was leading this church, and that was the church that sent out Paul. That was a church that
Mm.
sent out all these different missionaries to go to all these different places, because I believe, because man, they were diverse and they cared about other people
Cared.
groups. We need to go
Yeah.
help that people group. Hey, I'm from so and so. We need to send a missionary there. I'm from
Yeah.
here. We need to go reach that people group. We need to reach all these people groups. We're not just this one thing where.
Wow.
So we kind of look at it like that. It's biblical. Not saying that if your church is not that, oh, you're unbiblical, but we look at it and we have that passion and that conviction to say, man, we want to bring, ethnic groups and races together to worship God together, to serve together, to do life together, to grow together. That pleases the heart of God, because heaven is going to be multi-ethnic.
Yes.
Then why can't the church here on earth,
Yeah.
be diverse as well?
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
that's what the hardest part for us is, and the multi-generational thing came. It took a little bit of time because I was young when I started, right? And people still think I'm young. It's awesome. I love it. They're like, "Oh, you got a young pastor." I'm like, "Whoa!" And they're like, "Hey, what are you doing 30 years old? How old are you?" So you too, Dr. V. We don't look our age. We're making the 50s look good. So,
Say
but
it.
but now that I've gotten older and people know I've been here for a while and whatnot, there's people here my age. There's some people that are older, and I mean, we had some people last year. We had a new members class, and we had this group of older white ladies. They were like 80 years old, and one of them started a relationship with Jesus and got baptized for the first time in her life.
Oh.
She was like 80, and she
Oh.
loves the church. She's from New York, and she's from Long Island, and it's just like, this is amazing. But then on the other hand, then we're reaching, young adults that are 18, 19 years old. There was a lady that it was really cool. She got baptized. Her name's Miss Bobby, African American lady. She's about 78. And she started coming to the church last year because we had an Amazon. We do a free Amazon store with Love Our City. And so she was like first in line. And when I got here that morning, I went out and greeted everybody in the line. She's like, "I got here at 5:15. I mean, she was treating it like it was like
Yes,
the Black
Miss
Friday
Bobby.
line. She's like, "I was the first one in line at 5:15. Somebody got here at 5:30." And, so now we have it different now. We give people appointments. Like, you don't have to wait in line at 5 in the morning. You're coming at 10. You're coming at 10:30. Like, we got a space for you. Pre-register now. We learn. We're getting better. But anyways, I just loved on her, talked to her for a while, invited her to church the next day. She said she was coming. She actually came. Well, Miss Bobby has been coming every week. Almost every week, she's introducing me to somebody new that she's bringing. She went to the membership class. She got baptized at 78 years old. We had to help her get in the pool. She barely could get up the ladder into the pool. We were like helping her. But she got out of the pool and she changed. And she had just got baptized, and the next service was ready to start. She's like, I need to go to that growth track. I'm becoming a member today. I got baptized. I'm going to that membership class. And then this other girl came up to me that wanted to go to the membership class. And so I'm like, you know what? I'm going to walk you guys back here to the membership class. Just follow me. And I'm still in my like baptism, like waders on. I'm walking down the hallway. Everyone's laughing at me because they have these like silly looking boots and shoes on. But as I'm walking down the hallway, I'm like, man, wow, this is amazing. Here's a 78-year-old lady. Here's a girl next to her. She's African American. And here's a Hispanic girl that's 60 years younger. Walking down the hallway together to go to membership class.
To go to growth class together.
So when you see pictures like that, it's like, wow, like you can be a multi-generational church and reach people. It's not easy, but we've been able to do that. Those two of these ones. Here's the last part real quick. The one that's tough sometimes is the multi-class one.
Okay.
You're not going to find a whole lot of churches that are multi-class. They might be multi-ethnic or multi-generational, but the multi-class one sometimes is the toughest one because people are from different worlds, educationally, experience-wise, just the whole 9 yards. So we might have an African-American guy that's 40 years old sitting next to another African-American guy in the same row. One guy is a CEO of a company that has 40 employees, and the company has a $8 million budget every year. And he's got a master's degree, and like he's like traveled and all that. The other guy, same age. And by the way, they're both wearing Jordans. They're both similarly dressed. It's casual, and that's their vibe and stuff. They enjoy worship. But the other guy, he has a service worker job. He got 3 babies mamas. He's struggling to barely get by. He's been locked up a couple times. They're in two different worlds. He never went to college. The other guy's got a master's degree, but people would look at them and say, "Oh, they they look the same.
Mm-hmm.
They're in two different worlds." So the way you
Yeah.
disciple people has to be different when they're at different levels. You have to give different kinds of options for different people. So that's the thing that, we have a full-time discipleship pastor now. We have a lot of different options, and not everyone's going to get discipled the same way. But if you're going to be a church that's fully going to love your city,
Mm-hmm.
it's going to be multi-ethnic, multi-generational, multi-class. So if you come to crossover on a Sunday, you're going to see a little bit of everything in the crowd. If you go out in the parking lot, you might see some Lamborghinis, and you're going to see some
Mm-hmm.
bikes as
Mm-hmm.
well.
Yeah.
People that rode a bike to church because they don't even
Yeah.
have a car, and everything in between. And it's beautiful. But here's the cool thing is that you get those same people in the room together.
Yeah.
And that doesn't happen in many other places in culture, where you can be with
Anywhere
somebody
outside. Mm-hmm.
that looks like you, and they're doing it in a legal way, and they have a solid family, and they're doing it the right way. And like, wow. And those people can worship together and serve together and be in a group together. And we have an entrepreneur ministry. And so we're helping young entrepreneurs that might be just getting started, and they're being able to be in the room with someone that's seasoned and coached and successful and maybe has made millions of dollars, and they haven't made their first dollar yet, but they got a dream. But if they can get
Yeah.
around some of the right people, many times people struggle because they're just not exposed to the right information.
They
But if
don't
you
have
can get in the right
access.
and get access
Mm-hmm.
in the right
Mm-hmm.
proximity, everything can change. So I
Yeah.
know I've been talking for a while, so go ahead.
But so the heart of what I'm hearing you really say is, one, you allow yourself not to get stuck with doing the same thing all the same
Yeah,
way. And you keep people at the center of all of your intentions. And you've done
yeah,
your research. So you do your homework. You don't just create a model of a church and say, well, this is how this church is supposed to run. You actually look at the people who are around you, the people that you want to impact. You do your research, and then you design the church to address the need, not expecting the people to come just because you're the church. And
yeah,
you make sure that intentionally you have the church body leadership all the way through reflects what the community is, so that people in the community will see themselves at all different rungs in the hierarchy of the church. All of those things are so intentional, and I recognize that you have created a global impact ministry. But the name of our show is The Flip Side of Adversity, Pastor Tommy. This,
yeah.
I need you to be honest. Has there been a season where you had to dig in and create a flip? Like, I know I have witnessed how amazing it is authentically. But Pastor Tommy, was there ever a flip you had to make? Like, you had to go from here to there as a leader? What'd you
Yeah,
learn?
yeah, definitely. So I still got to come back and finish the Love Our City story, but let me answer that, because I think the pandemic was the biggest flip that we had to have as
Mm-hmm.
an organization, that a church. So like a business, you can do business in person, or you can do business online or on the phone or whatever, for a lot of business models, right? But when you're a church, your business is people in person. Like that's the way it's always been for thousands of years, right? Now suddenly, like, we can't meet together in person anymore, and we're not even allowed to, even if you want to. Like it's illegal, For a season there it was, and longer in some places than others. But so like we didn't have a choice. Like we had to.
Mm-hmm.
The word in 2020 was pivot. We had to pivot quickly and figure out, like, man, how are we gonna, turn ourselves now into a digital church, into a virtual
Mm-hmm.
church? How do we create community still and meet people's needs? And and it was tough. It was challenging. And now people be like, "Oh, well, you weren't meeting in person. It was easy for you just at home." Like, man, it felt like double the amount of work because we were engaging people instead of just on Sundays. We were now trying to engage people every day, especially those first couple months. I mean, we were doing stuff online every single day on Facebook Live, on YouTube. We were just being creative to engage our people. They were stuck at home. They needed hope. They needed community. Everybody was afraid. A lot of people were like, what's going to happen? This is the new normal. Is this going to be forever? Like, are we ever going to, get back to life as normal?
Right.
And there was just a lot of people lost their jobs at first. There was, a lot of uncertainty in just so many different, categories, health, economic, if you had family members that had health problems, like, oh my goodness, are they going to get sick and die? And there's a lot of fear being pumped, on social media and the news. And so trying to be that, that rock for people, that spiritual rock that like, hey, God's got us. We're going to be okay. We're going to get through this. We're going to be careful. We're going to do the things we're supposed to, but at the same time, we're not going to like lose our minds. And then at the same time, there was just so much, there was the racial tension in 2020. There was the political tension, and a church like mine could have easily been ripped apart because we're so diverse, people that are following different algorithms and listening to different voices. And so we have to be that centering point that, man, Jesus is the center, and we're going to get through this together as a family. And so because we did such a great job pivoting online, like as a creative, the first week we preached live in the auditorium and streamed it. That was the last week we did that. All the rest of it, we were closed for over 6 months in person. And we came back in the fall of 2020, and it was still like a slow comeback, right? But those first 6 months, like every single week I was filming the sermon in a different location. We filmed it at the beach. We filmed it in the top of a skyscraper. We filmed it to the buildings that got burned down the street because there was riots that happened. Like the epicenter of all the riots in our city was on our block, on our street. The mall right up the street. There's like 40 businesses that were burned and looted right along our street. Thank God our church was untouched. But so we were addressing all those kind of things, talking about all those kinds of things. And so we were very creative with our online content. And the worship, they were coming in to like film worship when nobody else was in the room. They would come in and do like a whole month of worship and then like chop it up into four weeks and stuff. So, but we had a great video guy. It was just me and him that would go and film, and he'd set up his cameras. It was me and him that would just every week, where are we going this week? Hey, this is what we're going to do. Or who else, we had some other guest speakers some of the weeks as well. But we pivoted, and the church stayed strong. We grew. We were reaching new people. Let me tell you this real quick. We did water baptisms that summer at the beach because it was outside. The beach was still open, or reopened by the summer here in Florida. It was hot out. And so we did a baptism. Like several of the people that we baptized at the beach had never even been to our church.
Wow. Wow. Yeah.
They started watching online because they were looking for hope, but they were in the area. There's actually one guy that him and his wife drove almost 3 hours. Someone else drove like 2 hours to get there for the baptism, and they had never been to the building. And there's even a couple of them that still have never come to the building. We baptized them, and we were their church for a season, and then they got reconnected at their church when it opened. But it was just an amazing season. There was adversity, and we had to flip it, but God used us. We partnered with Feeding Tampa Bay. We did a grocery drive-through in our parking lot for 14 months and fed hundreds and hundreds of families every week. And we're able to just minister to families. There were so many stories that came out of that. So back to the Love Our City story. I got to finish that really quick.
Wait. No, go ahead. I have another question. Because you just continue to create like this thread of innovation, and that continues to be kind of how you operate. And you've created an entire platform called the Innovation Summit. And so tell us about kind of like that, the birthing of that, because I want people, especially in a time where there's so much uncertainty, there's so much fear, things are being cut. I've got to figure out how to do more with less money.
Yeah.
I can't, I don't have, I'm short staffed. Like, innovation is at the heart of it. And you've
Yeah.
created an entire place, an ecosystem for leaders to be in a place of innovation. Can you tell us about the birthing of the Innovation Summit?
Yeah, so it started during the pandemic, essentially. I mean, we were doing some stuff for business owners and some Bible studies and stuff before the pandemic. During the pandemic, everything, all of our groups went virtual on Zoom. And before we were gathering maybe 10 to 12 business leaders, entrepreneurs. But during the pandemic, when we did it on Zoom, now we're gathering like 25. And we have people joining us from other cities. And, it just continued to grow and grow. And there was a couple that started watching. They were in Milwaukee. They started watching at 6 a.m. It was 7 a.m. for the rest of us. And it was 6 a.m. their time. And they started watching the church on Sundays. They learned about the groups through that. They're entrepreneurs. They jumped in. They felt so connected to Crossover that they ended up moving. She got a new job, a CEO position, and she could work from wherever. And so they ended up building a new house and moving to Florida. And they announced that to us at the end of one of the Zoom meetings. They're like, "Oh, we got a prayer request and a praise report. Pray for us because we're closing on our new house today in Tampa." And the whole group was like, "Woo!"
Yay!
They're coming down. And so, they've been part of the church now for about 4 years. And she is now CEO of another company. She spoke at Flavor Fest this past year. I'm talking about this story of Morellis Hood, and she runs an organization called E for All, and about 80 employees. And they teach entrepreneurship, and it's just incredible. So you're going to attract who you are, and I'm an entrepreneur at heart.
That part.
And so as we started to come back in person, we started to do some breakfast and some lunches. We called it the innovation lunch, the innovation breakfast. And we were gathering 40, 50 people. And this is while COVID was still like kind of happening. And so some people weren't comfortable with coming to sit down and eat with other people yet. And we're still gathering like 40 or 50 people. And then as, things, got better and better, I think it was 2022, we did our first innovation summit. And it was in the spring of 2022. And we had, almost 200 people come to it. And we didn't advertise it as a Christian faith-based event. We just said, hey, this is a summit for entrepreneurs. Everyone's welcome. Entrepreneurs from the city. We're going to talk about real estate. We're going to talk about crypto. We're going to talk about trading. We're going to talk about branding and social media and marketing and all those buzzwords, that entrepreneurs are into. And we gathered some speakers from the church and some speakers in the city that we knew that had voices. And it just has grown to where we just did it this past February. And we had Myron Golden there. We had the guy that leads the biggest entrepreneur movement in Central Florida was there. He's a believer now as well. And then we had a couple great entrepreneurs from our church speak as well. And then we had 5 breakout workshop tracks. We had one on health and wellness, because that's very popular right now. People are trying to stay healthy and be at optimal health and biohack and all that stuff, especially as we get a little older, right?
Yes.
So we had a track on that. We had a track on AI. We had a track on real estate, a track on investing and tax strategies as well. When you have a business and you're running it and you start to have a little bit of success, you start to notice like, dang, I got to pay all these taxes now. Like, how do I figure out how to save money on that? And we had a track on, what was the other one? Real estate. So, but we had over 200 people come. It was an amazing event. It actually raised money for the church. Normally, like, we break even at events. That's our goal. If we can just break even, we actually made some money on this event, and we used that to do some things that was amazing. The church didn't have to, we're able to just level up in some areas. But it's just, I believe this, like, what if the church, we're in a gig economy. What if the church could be known as the place where entrepreneurs could go for resources, for mentorship, maybe even for networking, maybe even for funding. Like, what if?
Yes.
Like, we did Shark Tank 2 years ago at the Shark Tank, and we gave away money. Another organization funded it, but we were kind of the face of it. But man, what if the church could do that? Because like you said, Dr. V, most people now it's tight, and people need other streams of income. So what if your church, what if your nonprofit could be the ones that could help people level up? And it's outreach. We look at it like it's outreach and it's discipleship. Because if you
Mm.
start coaching
Yes.
someone and training someone up and you're a believer, well, you're going to be training them with biblical principles and how to have integrity and how to keep God first in your business.
You have knocked out the walls of the box to what church is and what it can be. You just not like it is at the core of innovation, like I'm knocking down the walls. So look, I'm going to give you this opportunity. Love Our City is such a big part of your life that you have a new book. Is it out yet?
Yeah. It is. It's out. It's out.
It is.
It is
So,
on.
yes.
Here it is. It just recently came out, and it's a 30-day devotional book. It also tells the story that I almost finished, that I'm going to finish really quick.
Yes. Yes. Go
So,
for it.
so Love Our City Week, right? How did it turn out? We did service projects, pay it forward projects, and the last one was teacher appreciation lunches. And we did lunches for teachers, police officers, firefighters, clinic workers, about 1,000 lunches that we do every time we do a serve week. So that first year, remember, I was like 50 projects, 500 people.
Yes.
We had 600 people show up.
Oh.
We had to add projects. There was like 70 projects. Fast forward to what we just did a few weeks ago. We had well over 500 people that served. We had, I think, about 2,300 volunteer hours.
Wow.
We did 104 community service projects, and it just touched literally thousands and thousands of people that we were able to touch. I mean, just one knock knock groceries, we gave out like one out of the 104 projects, we gave out 300 grocery bags.
Yeah.
So, some of those like 104 projects, some of those projects were reaching hundreds alone. So you multiply that, and everybody got an invite. That's the only thing. Like, we just were planting seeds. They got an invite to come to Easter Sunday. And we just had Resurrection Sunday this past week with 4 services, hundreds of new people. 169 people responded to the gospel and went to the table. So there was actually, I was up front when people responded and raised their hand and prayed. It was more than that. Not everyone's going to go to the table, but 169 people went to the table, filled out information, and we blessed them with some resources. And so, but yeah, Love Our City tells the story, the book, and it's available at loveourcitybook.com. It's also available on, of course, Amazon and all that good stuff as well.
But Pastor Tommy, if I'm a leader and I'm like, I need more guidance, don't you have some kind of tool or kit for leaders to be able to, I need more of a step-by-step because you're really talking my language, but I don't necessarily know how.
Yeah, so there is a lot of nuts and bolts into putting together like a serve week or a serve day or a couple of days. And so we created a box leaders kit, and I actually got one here on my desk. So it looks like this, and it's actually a box kit, and it comes with some books, but there's a leader's guide in there, and we have this available digitally as well. So if you don't want us to physically mail this to you, if you need it like right now, we have a link that we can send you as well, the digital box kit. There's a message series. So if you want to preach the series or teach the series, there's small group video curriculum that goes along with the book. So every 7 days, there's a video that you could watch in the book, and there's some fill in the blanks. There's discussion questions that you could do with your small group or with your family or with yourself if you're all by yourself doing it. But yeah, the inside of the leaders kit, there's also a thumb drive, or also the link to the Google Drive, which has the artwork in there, fundraising guide, project template. The leader's guide gives you the nuts and bolts on how to plan your calendar, how to raise up leaders, how to go set up the projects, how to begin to promote it, get people to sign up to be a part of it, and just kind of all the systems and nuts and bolts, how we've done this. I have an amazing Love Our City director, and she was a volunteer at first. And she was on our staff doing a bunch of other things, but now she moved into doing Love Our City full time. And it's a separate nonprofit that we have that's still under our umbrella. But Lily Perlaza, give her a shout out. She does such a great job with organizing the team. And that's how we're able to do all those projects. I'm the big visionary, and then you always got to have somebody that executes the nuts and bolts. But this leaders kit is available at loveourcitybook.com if you want to get the details on that. Loveourcitybook.com. We have about 400 churches that have gotten one of these kits and have implemented Love Our City in some way, shape, or form. It's customizable no matter what context you're in, if you're in a small town or you're in the suburbs or you're in the city.
So, Pastor Tommy, I'm always amazed at how quickly the hour goes by. But I always ask, right? I always ask our leaders who are in the chair to speak to a leader. And so I'm going to ask you to close us out. For the leader who's listening, who feels stuck, who is carrying a weight of everything, what is one bold move they can make this week to activate more people around them? Can you talk to them for me?
Yeah, leaders that are out there, it's weighty. It's heavy sometimes, right? They say everything rises and falls on leadership. And so people are watching to see how we're going to respond, how we're going to react to what's going on in our organization, in the world, social media, whatever, right? So they're watching us. And I would just encourage you this week to lead well. Take care of yourself. If you don't take care of yourself, you're not going to be able to lead well. You're not going to be able to be at your optimal self. So you got to take care of yourself, get your rest. I'm talking about nothing that's super profound, but it's going to be a game changer if you really do it. Get your rest. Like, learn to shut things off. Get your 7 to 8 hours of sleep. Have somebody that you can talk to bounce things off of, sometimes to vent, because as a leader, we can't bleed down to the people that we're leading. And sometimes we're frustrated with stuff. We're upset. We got to talk to somebody, and we can't always dump that on our spouse if you're married. I mean, that's a safe person sometimes, but you can't do that all the time. You need to find someone. If you don't have someone, a mentor, a friend, someone that maybe is a little farther along. And if you do have that person, you just haven't connected with them lately. I know we all get busy. Maybe this is your week to call them and catch up with them and debrief on some things and get some advice, get some prayer, get some wisdom, get some knowledge. I regularly try to do that with some people in my life. Just recently did that on some things that I'm facing as a leader. And man, one of my mentors was able to give me and my wife like great, solid advice. So you got to have people in your life that you can turn to. And even things like this podcast, finding leadership tools. People can mentor you sometimes from afar as well. And so listening to podcasts, reading books, those ways you can invest in yourself are super important and can help you go to the next level and be a better leader.
So, as we close tonight, I want to leave you with something that might challenge you, but it will also free you. If you're doing most of the work, you are not leading at your highest level. You are actually simply maintaining. And here's the truth. Your exhaustion might not be from the workload. It might be from the lack of shared ownership. What Pastor Tommy showed us tonight is that when you shift the design, you shift the engagement. When we create space for people's passion, they show up differently, and we can lead differently. When you align opportunity with capacity, they continue to provide contribution that shows up differently as well. And when leaders stop being the center of everything, they become the catalyst for everyone. So here's your challenge. Stop asking, why aren't people stepping up? And start asking, what have I created or not created that's keeping them from doing it? Because leadership's not about being needed for everything. It's about building something that doesn't depend on you for everything. That's the flip. That's the challenge. That's the invitation. And when you make that shift, you don't just grow your team, you multiply your impact. So, are you ready to be that leader that creates the flip? Don't just let this have been a conversation you listened to, but it's a conversation that activated you. We'll see you same time, same place next week on The Flip Side.